I didn't have to get all of that part of the town we need. And
I don't know, I think it's,
It's behind Landon.
is it behind him? Oh, I see it right there.
you want to get that or somewhere.
It's slow.
You
You
can
have
stop
time to
it.
move.
I didn't know. Call to order, the city council regular meeting for Monday, March 16th, 2024. You have roll call, please.
Councilmember Sanchez,
Present.
Vice Mayor Johnson,
Here.
Mayor Park,
Here.
Councilmember Calderon,
Here.
Councilmember Roberts.
Stand, please.
Please stand. Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Proclamations, introducing new promoted employees having that at the moment to move to community participation forum. The public may address the city council on matters not listed on the agenda. City council may not discuss or take action on any community participation item brought forward by a member of the community. Comments are requested to be limited to 3 minutes.
I have no speaker cards, Mr. Mayor.
And I'm seeing any of the public. Before we move to consent agenda, I'd like to take a moment to been brought to my attention that we need to refine our way of going about our discussion here on the city council. So as we move forward, what we're going to ask the council, if they have something to say, please be acknowledged. And this is what I have to say, and then we'll move on to the next one. And while each one of them are speaking, their opinion or their advice or whatever it is, they not be interrupted. And then when they're done, they can always come back later, but we want to keep the structure going so nobody's left out and everybody's able to voice their opinion or their advice. Now move to consent agenda. 1, 2, 3, and 4. A motion on the consent agenda.
I'll motion to accept that or pass the consent agenda.
I'll say.
Public comment, Mr. Mayor. Open public comment on.
I'm sorry, I didn't. Open public comment on consent agenda. Being done, we will now close the public comment and consent agenda. The motion and the second is already on the table, so we will go.
Councilmember Calderon,
Yes.
Mayor Park.
Yeah.
Vice Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Yes.
Very good. Item for consideration. Employee agreement to the administrator.
Mr. Mayor, I'll remind the council that you appointed me to act as labor negotiator for a potential amendment to City Administrator Arteaga's contracts. And the council performed a performance review for the city administrator in February. And the employment agreement called for consideration of merit pay increases. And based on the wage study from the summer of 2025 on file in the city, it demonstrated that city administrator was paid less than her peers in local jurisdictions. With that, we started negotiations and we have reached a tentative agreement, a copy of which is made part of the agenda tonight. And there is a resolution to allow for the mayor to execute the amended employment agreement with the city administrator and I'm happy to answer any questions from the council.
Council have any questions? Seeing none. We'll, entertain a motion into.
Public comment, Mr. Mayor.
Open it to public comment. On item number 5. Seeing none, close public comment. Now we will move for a motion.
A motion to approve resolution 2026-R-006 and authorize the mayor to execute on behalf of the Gridley City Council.
Second.
Paul, please.
Councilmember Calderon,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Johnson,
No.
Councilmember Roberts.
Yes.
Mayor Farr,
Yes.
Councilmember Sanchez,
Yes.
Voted on and carried. We'll now move to item number 6, healthcare PERS 457 deferred compensation plan.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is really just a formality, the staff report. We request the city council to approve resolution 2026-R-007. Resolution approving adoption of CalPERS 457 plan and authorize the city administrator to execute any necessary documents. The 457 plan is really a tax advantage employee sponsored deferred compensation plan. It's additional retirement account really for employees. It's 100% contributions are 100%. What's the word? The employees choose whether to contribute to this or not, so it's optional. There's really no cost to the city other than doing the one-time initial setup, filling out the paperwork, which are attached to the staff report. It's for the employees. There's no cost to the city. The only cost, I guess, the only real cost to the city is the match for GPOA and management employees, which is $50 up to $50 a month per employee that elects to contribute. Not all employees currently contribute, so it's just those that are contributing $50 or more. A couple of major factors for the switch. It's lower cost to the employees. We currently have Mission Square, which was formerly named ICMA. And I believe they got bought out or changed their name or something, but now they're Mission Square. We want to add CalPERS 457 plan, which their fees are significantly lower to the employees. There is 2 annual site visits from a CalPERS representative that will come on site, meet with employers, talk about their portfolio and give them some recommendations on what to invest in. It does come with expanded investment options. So right now Mission Square is very limited on what we can invest on, we as employees. And then this allows us to invest in pretty much anything in the stock market, with switching over to CalPERS. They do have a loan provision too, which allows employees to borrow from their retirement account if they need funds really quick for something medical, or they just need funds. They can work with CalPERS. We don't handle anything of that. They contact CalPERS and then they work with them and they set up a repayment option and all that stuff. So it is easier to report the contributions for city staff. So we currently report to CalPERS on a biweekly basis. So this just adds a line item to each employee's profile where we just enter a number of what their contributions are. So it makes it a lot easier for finance staff to to report on these. Right now we do a whole separate report to Mission Square and it takes a while. So this makes it a little bit easy. So there's some time saved there for the finance staff. CalPERS would handle the switch from Mission Square over to CalPERS. So what the process is, they get all the members that are currently have some funds in Mission Square. We give them that data, mailing address, they send a letter over to them, letting them know that at the date of our choosing, they will be switched over. And then they switch them over, they get them set up with an account and they get all the information and then they meet. Once all that's done, they meet with anyone that wants to meet with them to kind of go over the new look or how to work their investments and things like that with the new plan. This currently will be only for management and GPOA members. Currently IBEW has elected not to participate, not that they're not interested. I think they do plan to participate in the future, but for now, we're still kind of working with them on that, so. That's pretty much it. Again, there really is no financial impact to the city, other than setting this up. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
I have a question. So, and I'm just trying to line this here, can an employee start and stop contributions at any time? Is it, I guess?
Yes, sorry, yeah. Yeah, they can elect, they can change how much they contribute at any time. It just has to be done before each payroll. They'll work with HR, they update or they stop, whatever they want to do.
That's all I have.
Any questions? No question in council, I open it up to the public for discussion. Item number 6. None, I'll close, I'll close the public comment. I hear a motion.
A motion to approve resolution 2026-R-007 and to authorize the city administrator to execute necessary documents.
Second.
Motion, roll call, please.
Councilmember Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Calderon,
Yes.
Mayor Farr.
Yes.
Thank you.
Number 7. CE2A Environmental Review Services Legacy Subdivision Project.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So it's kind of an interesting situation where we have these on-call planners that we approved to use, and normally we wouldn't necessarily be here. However, the way the procurement policy is written doesn't define certain costs separate from like what the city's paying versus what a developer pays. This is one of those situations where this falls on the developers themselves to pay. However, because it doesn't define that in procurement policy, we're here mission because it is a significant amount of money. This project is the legacy project, which I'm sure you probably remember we've talked about before. So the annexation of 96 acres and 82 of those to be developed for the potential of 840 more dwellings. It's a significant project that comes with a lot of risks. And so the CEQA process is a state mandated process that we have to go through and make sure that we avoid any potential disasters or at least mitigate the risks. And so that's what we're here to shore up tonight. We put them out to our on-call service planning agencies, and we got 3 responses back. Among those 3, this was the least expensive and had the quickest timeline. The planner that's running the point for the legacy project, I spoke to him about it. He actually liked this selection. He agreed with my assessment. And so it was a kind of a win-win for everyone in this case. He's aware of the process and they all are really. So they knew that this was coming. It was just a matter of how quickly can we do it and how cheaply can we get it done. So this was kind of a no-brainer for us. There'll be a number of studies for transportation, biology, noise, and air pollution, impacts on agriculture, those sort of things. The total fee estimate is $152,000 with 10% for contingencies. And that was probably over 50%, over 50,000 less than the second expensive. And they were several months shorter than the second in speed. So it was a pretty easy open and shut case, but we're here asking because of the amount of money, so. If I can answer any questions, I do recommend that we obviously push to 2026 or 008. I'll be answering questions.
Questions, Russell?
I have a question or a couple. I'm just a bit confused as to the procurement policy, and I know I reached out earlier, but I know it was a little bit last minute, so it's okay if we need to follow up on this. So just so that I understand, is it because of our procurement policy that the city in a way is fronting the cost for this review and then charging the developer? Or why is it that the developer is not able or being directed to find their own consultant to do the review for this project?
So we won't be fronting the cost. It'll be paid for as we go. We'll take an initial deposit, and as that deposit dwindles, then we'll ask for another deposit. So if at some point it looks like it's not gonna happen, or they get cold feet, they can back out with having to necessarily put all that money up front. The reason is the city prefers to source these studies is because it keeps separation from the developer. If the developer knows somebody, oftentimes developers do know lots of people, and they may find somebody who knows how to say exactly what they want to hear. And so oftentimes the person who is paying or sourcing the worker answers to them and not to the person who wants leniency or may have to do things they don't want to do.
And so you mentioned a little bit about the deposit and then them paying as the process goes, and that anytime the developer may back out. What happens in that case? Would they be billed for whatever costs were fronted by the city towards this?
Yeah, so any services rendered, those monies are spent. But they would be reimbursed for anything that wasn't spent for sure. But it's easier for someone to stomach putting up 30% instead of trying to put out that whole 100% up front. I mean, their money works for them when it's not in our pocket, so.
And then obviously, just given that it is about a 98-acre project, that is reflective of the higher estimated cost for this.
Yeah, there's a number.
152 is a lot.
Yeah, it's all relative. So, there's initial studies that turn into EIRs, and they turn into $400,000, $500,000 projects, just for the environmental. It just sort of depends, and this could potentially turn into something bigger. Sometimes we don't know what we're up against until biologist goes out there and starts looking at the land and evaluating. I think that because this has been a farmland area for a long time, we're not gonna find any surprises. There are some genuine concerns with circulation, transportation, and the safety of the community that may live there, as well as the waterway that runs along the southern border, which is part of what limits the circulation. So there are some things that are concerning. I don't anticipate this going into an EIR, but yeah, the size of the project and different variables can definitely have different impacts and raise those costs quite a bit. Also things like past work that's been done in that area. So if we have other environmental studies that have been done in the near past or weren't too long ago, we can sometimes lean on those and help reduce costs. And so we'll be looking at those options as well. But if we don't, then they have to go back, have to start at a base level and really kind of make sure they're covering all their bases. And this is as beneficial to the developer as it is to us, because if there's a environmental catastrophe, everyone's held liable in that case. We can all be scrutinized for not doing a good enough job, including the developers. They want it done well as well.
And one last question, clarifying question. So you said that, going back to our last question about if they decide to pull out of the project, they've paid, let's say, $40,000. That would still be reimbursed back to the city, correct? If that money was spent, or did you say that that's eaten up by both sides, the city and the developer?
Sure. So any monies spent on services rendered are not returned because we're paying biologists or environmental planners to do their job, and so that money will be gone. But if there's still residual of that deposit sitting in an account, then yeah, they would be giving back that money.
I think she's asking the opposite.
Yeah, so I'm asking if the city would then bill the developer for the services rendered.
So ideally, we should.
Like where
already
the
have-
city isn't eating up the cost, I guess, per se.
We're billing monthly, so I think if you wanna touch
Well, the
Christopher
invoicing
on,
process.
yes, on the invoicing process that the city has. We currently now have a process in place for invoicing and also communication and collaboration with all the agencies and developers, and part of that was implementing a new policy where we're sending out monthly statements. The developers are aware of what is being deducted from their deposits. And we are also further forwarding those invoices to them, so if they have any questions or they have any comments about those invoices, we have enough time to speak to the vendor and kind of go back and reaffirm whether those are adequate charges or not. And then that gets deducted from their invoice, their deposit on file.
Yeah, that all helps with the transparency and, these consulting firms aren't always perfect. They make mistakes and it may even be egregious at times. So letting everybody be aware of what's happening as it's happening allows us to catch mistakes early. So yeah, there's process now.
Mayor, may I ask, just kind of a little more clarification? So I guess just me kind of visualizing the process. When they're doing their studies, even though if we agree tonight to set this money aside, they're gonna bill us in increments as they're doing this process. I guess.
Yeah. So it sort of depends on what part of the process
Okay,
they're at.
Okay, and that's fine. So that kind of gives us I understand now. So if they're billing us for whatever they're supposed to be doing, and that's $40,000, and when they're done with that, we'll pay them, we'll look at the developer and say, hey, it's 40 grand. And then we go to the next process.
So if the deposit is 40 grand to begin with, and then let's say in the beginning, we have planners that are working hourly and they're getting paid $120 or $150 an hour. Well, then we get an invoice showing that a senior planner worked for this many hours, a principal planner worked for this many hours, and here's the total. However, there could be a situation where maybe they have to hire somebody to come in and the entire job is packaged for a price. So biologists to come in and do some kind of investigative study might be 10,000 or 20,000 by itself. So maybe that's one lump in that line item of the invoice. So it can kind of come out in different ways, but that invoice is then sent to us monthly. We send it to the developer just so that they're aware of what we're deducting from their balance, so they can keep their own running balance.
Who manages that? You gonna be managing that or?
It's between myself and finance. We work together to make sure that we're all on the same page.
So, in other words, we'll have our eye on that. It's not gonna get too far.
Yeah, we don't want people working without money in the bank. We want to make sure that we can cover anything that's coming around the corner.
We also, if we see it, the amount of deposit on file is decreasing, then we will reach back out and say, you've reached this amount. You need to have a certain amount of percentage on file. So we'll communicate that.
Perfect. I know you can do same thing.
Yeah,
Where did LACO Associates, where are they from?
So the office that we're working out of is out of Chico. And the folks that are assigned to this project are from the Chico area. So they've been doing CEQA and doing the subdivision annexations for decades. This is something they're really good at. It was a big win that they also came in the shortest amount of time. And I think that was part of why they came in such a short time and less money, because they have the expertise to be able to kind of work locally very effectively, very efficiently. But yeah, and then the other two options were someone out of Sacramento area and someone out of Monterey. So
I'd rather deal with local.
I agree.
It won't sound like they are.
I agree.
How long is it supposed to take?
So the proposal that they gave us is about, I think 9 months in total, and that includes bringing it out to you guys for the final adoption. But if, there's no guarantees in that. Like I said, sometimes it depends on what they find. And if there's a red flag that pops up, then it may stretch it out a month. If we find some supporting research that's already been done, then maybe we can cut some of that process down and say, hey, we can lean on this other document that's already been done that speaks directly to this concern. It's not often that it cuts short, oftentimes it goes long, but I think they did a good job at putting together a realistic time frame. Their scope is appropriate.
Great. Any more discussion? Yeah.
One more suggestion. So I know I was looking through the RFP for, what's it called? So they provide us back. The associates, the proposal, yeah. And I know for Substack 2 data collection and field observations, I'm not sure what page it is. And it mentions the areas that they would be observing. So intersections like West Biggs Gridley Road and Red Lane, West Biggs Gridley Road and Peach Street and Spruce Street. I think another area of concern is, I believe it might be Indiana. One of those other perpendicular streets are concerned, or the community has raised concerns about it being very narrow and the traffic. I'll follow up with you, but I think it was Indiana, and that's not noted here. So my encouragement and recommendation would be if you can take a look at what those potential streets of concern could be. And this might have to be going back into city minutes or planning commission meeting minutes about when the community expresses concerns with like the Heron Landing development and the increased traffic in those areas, especially where the streets are very, very narrow.
Sure.
So just wanted to elevate that to you.
Yeah, I think that we can, it's appropriate for us to have a voice and if we want to add an area to be studied. I don't think that's a problem to add an area for our concern. I think Indiana.
There's about 10 different intersections, but again, I just want to make sure that we don't miss any.
Sure.
That are or have been of concern to the community.
Yeah, Indiana, I think it dead ends. Technically, at Heron Landing now would run into Chandler Park if that turns into anything. Whether it connects all the way to Legacy is still way in the distance, whether we can see that happening. There would have to be a crossing there, and Chandler Park would have to make significant changes to their map.
But remember, even if it is ultimately a dead end street, remember that it would connect to Heron Landing. People would then cut through the back way to get to this Legacy development. And I'm just trying to think ahead of what the community would likely raise. Like, hey, the street's already impacted. It's already impacted because of Heron Landing. Now you're going to add in Legacy. I think they would want us to just be mindful that we don't miss observing those intersections.
Yeah, that's
Thank you. That's all for me. Thanks.
One other one that Councilman Sanchez said, Vermont Street, which it turns in dead ends, and I believe will do eventually straight through into
Yeah, Legacy is not proposing crossing lateral 7, but we would like that. We would like for there to be better connectivity. So who knows how this may end up, and that could be result. But yeah, as we come along, feel free. You're welcome to send me an email and say I'd like this to be on the list, and we can. When it comes time for that traffic study, I'm happy to talk to the consultants and evaluate all of those little bits and pieces, make sure that we're covering our bases.
And not to belabor this longer, but so are you saying that you are gonna have conversations with them to add on any other streets, or is this proposal just limited to these 10 intersections?
Well, yeah, there'll be constant conversations. I'll be working with them very closely throughout the process. Adding on the streets could potentially add on to costs for the developer, but it's nothing set in stone here. We can change course at any time to make sure we're covering. What's most important is that we have a thorough study that's legally defensible. We want to be able to stand up in court and say we did the right thing. We covered all of our bases and we didn't let any stone unturned. So yeah, nothing wrong with that. Just something on.
Yeah, I think just to kind of summarize it is, along with what the mayor said, is making sure that these intersections are observed, but also any potential feeder streets that people would likely get to this Legacy subdivision.
Sure.
So again, that would be the main point.
I would hope that the traffic study people could see that as they go through that and say, you know, we should probably look at some others. But there's nothing wrong with us pointing out ahead of time.
Thank you. Thanks.
Seeing no other discussion in the council, we'll open it up to public comments.
Right, Garland, Ridley. Thanks to Councilor Sanchez. I do most of my questions answered for me. I really like the fact that we all agree that all these costs are the responsibility of the developer. City's not gonna pay for them, right? And that on this, the statement here, the financial impact, all costs associated with the staff report. That means all of these expenses right here, this 52,900. With total cost associated with the staff report. They doesn't make me think of all the stuff that's in here, but is that right? That's what. That's how you read that language?
Do you mind repeating your question or?
Yeah, basically this is the cost associated with the staff report. Is that the costs which are in the staff report? These numbers, the 152,900? Or is it something else?
That's what it's referring to. It's referring to the 152,000.
Okay, thank you. Okay, but in that case, say that there will be no to minimal impact to the city. Is there any implication in there that the city may lose by not being paid by the developer? And have to eat some of these costs? Is that a
Can I
possibility?
respond?
I don't think so, sir. So that was kind of what Vice Mayor and council member were asking about, and the process is set up so that we have the money deposited in advance, and there's nothing that's coming around the corner that could cost more than what we're already holding as a deposit. So we'll have a percentage trigger. Yeah,
There we go. Okay, thank you, that's fine.
you're welcome.
Any more comment, public? If none, we'll close public comment. Take a motion.
I'll move that we approve the CEQA Environmental Review Service Legacy Subdivision Project, which is the city council to review resolution 2026-R008, a resolution authorizing city administrator to execute the task order with LACO Associates for an amount not to exceed $152,900 for environmental review services for the Legacy subdivision project.
Second, second,
I'll second.
motion, roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Mayor Farr,
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilmember Calderon.
Yes.
Okay, move on to item number 8, Central Gridley pedestrian conductivity and equal access product. EM8Q funded design.
Community council and mayor, we discussed at the study session. We're gonna go through several agenda items so that we can get your direction. We can actually take action on these. I apologize for that long name on that first project.
I have a question first. We need to vote on each one of these. That's
So the idea here was that this gives you the opportunity to vote on each one as its own individual item. Yeah, otherwise it's just cleaner this way so that you can give us direct. Yeah, direction.
Yeah, it's it's asking it. Yeah, it's basically each topic that we talked about in the study session, just your direction on each one. Direction or motion.
Landon, do I need to, for the Moose Lodge one, do I need to leave on that since I'm the administrator of the lodge?
It's certainly potentially a conflict, and remind me what item is that?
11.
Is the
Number 11.
11. Yeah, I would say because it involves right of way acquisition and, Councilmember Roberts, what's your position in the Moose Lodge?
I'm the administrator. I run the.
Okay, that is a conflict. Yep.
I need to leave the room or just not vote on?
You should leave during the pendency of discussion and motion. Yeah.
All right, sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, so so these are not in the same order that we presented, but thank you for pulling it up. So quick reminder, the Central Gridley project, we're just gonna leave it at that for now because it's a long, I don't know who named that. Anyway, so we did have some CMAQ funding for the design. We had a consultant come in. The job is primarily curb ramps, some driveway, and crosswalks, all to make it ADA compliant. As mentioned in the study session, this would be a project that we would pursue ATP, which is Active Transportation Program funding to get construction. I should have put it in here. I don't know if I did in the staff report. I want to say we're in the $3 to $4 million range for the total construction costs. One of the issues with this project is there isn't a lot of data to back it up that makes it competitive with some of the other projects. But there is some rework to the design. We want to pursue that to make these safe routes safer for school. So.
I have another question on this one now. I live within that area. Do I need to step out for this one?
I didn't know.
Vermont and Laurel's in that area.
But
They're not gonna benefit from it, it's not a project.
I don't think that there's a benefit here that's going to disqualify you that you live within an area that may have new sidewalks. Yeah.
I know my corner is one of them they've looked at. Right at the corner of my property, so.
You don't want us to do construction.
It's not anything.
I don't want to get
Increase
city
the
in
value
trouble or
of this
me.
property. Potentially.
Is it abstain from voting?
What's the location of your property? It's
Corner of Laurel in Vermont.
He's right in.
It's that funky looking, yeah, right where the arrow's at.
Yeah, and there's improvements there. There's crosswalk and curb returns, maybe a gap closure.
okay.
You guys across the street from the church. Right
Yeah.
there.
I think that counts recuse themselves before for.
Yeah.
I think it's the safest to, if it's a sidewalk in front of your house,
I'll see them out.
Yep.
Yeah. And I'm gonna go ahead and say, because it's hard to see, I don't know, there's Idaho Street.
It's not big scribbly right there.
I'm right there, okay, we're good, Mike, me and Mike are right there.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Yeah. So we're good, right?
Yeah, you're like, wait.
Okay, alright, cool.
Now, I have directions here on. This is although roll call motion is not required for direction. City council can choose to request for clarity or recognition, so I don't.
No, that is true, Mr. Mayor. It can be done either way when we're providing direction. If there is a lack of clarity, sometimes we need a roll call to make sure that we have a majority of the council in favor of the direction being offered, right? If it's clear what the direction is, and we know it's something that wouldn't require formal action otherwise, right? Because we're not adopting a resolution, the like, then, simply directing staff to, hey, we'd like to look more at this, or, I consider this a lower priority. and there's unanimity amongst the council, then, you know, it may not be required. Does that make sense?
Does the council have any comments on this?
I have a clarifying question, and I know we have about 5 different projects that we're looking at tonight. But can you clarify which one is, I know this one's obviously an ATP funded opportunity. Are all of these 5 projects open to ATP funding or only the 2 listed on the staff report?
Yeah, so right now, the 2 that have been identified as potentially being candidates for ATP are this central project and then the Fairview Gap Closure and East Gridley Road project. The Cherry Street project is a potential for CMAQ funding, kind of a pursuing funds through BCAG. So it's really just a call for project to BCAG and then coordinating with them. The Moose Lodge is a light load, a light lift, if you will, for the city and a Caltrans funded project if we can secure right away. And iron out those details with the Moose Lodge. And then the Wilson is just a local fund, safety measures to make it safer for kids, you know, to drop off and pick up at the school there.
Well, when you say local funds, does that mean city?
Yes.
Paid for?
Yeah.
Without BCAG, without ATP?
Yeah, there's no, it's a really a small project and there hasn't been any funding because it's so small, it doesn't really fit into any of the funding categories at this time.
And then you'll go over each project, how much the current estimation is? Or
We don't even have that because we've just for transparency, we've been working on the Laurel Street extension and there's so the reason that this is coming up right now is because of the call for projects for CMAQ and the impending NOFA for ATP. So the County Department of Health is willing to partner with the city to pursue those ATP grant funds. But they need to do work ahead of time. And so they're looking for our cooperation and direction. Some of that work would be like sending out surveys so that we can get a really good sense of how well the projects will compete. And are the improvements actually going to result in parents allowing their kids to ride their bikes to school or walk to school, where right now there's not connectivity?
So what is the deadline for CMAQ and then ATP? Or is that soon?
So the deadline for the call for projects for CMAQ is April 17th. And so again, that's just here with our local BCAG. So we'll make the call there and then it'll go through several BCAG kind of iterations. And because it's the whole county, Paradise and Chico really want a lot of the funds going to them because they have a lot of the pedestrians and the data that supports the applications. It's expected that the NOFA for the ATP is coming out in June. I think it usually comes out with a deadline for those applications. I want to say in September. But I'm not an ATP grant person, so that's just what I caught from BCAG.
So I guess that answers the question for half of the project. So then the Moose Lodge project, I know we're not on the item, but is that Caltrans funding only?
Yeah.
Okay. Just so that I guess we're mindful when we're making this decision for priorities. I know that we're doing a single item, but it's kind of hard to have full discussion. I know I missed a study session.
I think what is before council tonight is whether you are giving direction to staff to pursue these projects. And once staff pursues them, we will come back with potential funding. We'll roundtable back and we're going to look at all of the funding. We're going to start reaching out to partners and working with other partners, bring back the information on what the matches are, what the cost is going to be. So this is your direction on, yes, we would like this. We want to move forward with it. And then if there's a preference, then you would say preference is this project. And so there are multiple funding sources, but for this one here, is whether you would want staff to continue to research this and look forward on what evaluate what potential funding there is and other agencies that we collaborate with.
That's the way I understand it,
That correct?
City's administrator outlined this, that you're bringing this forward for us to look at and to pursue the, what it's gonna take to fund out each one of these and the construction thereof.
Yeah.
And there's no money attached to it, we don't know what's gonna cost, I don't know how we can vote on it, we can all agree that we need to go forward on it.
Yeah, so
We don't really need to.
a couple things to keep in mind. One, there will be other rounds of CMAQ and ATP funding, right? Like these ATP usually happens in like a 2-year cycle. We can apply for more than one, but there is a cost associated with that. The amount of effort that gets put into the application because they're highly competitive. So engineering studies, I know the county said that they will help. I believe they have a grant that funds them to help pursue these other grants for agencies, the county and us or Biggs or whoever they're helping in the county, right? But one of the things we're up against is just the bandwidth that we have as staff, right? I mean, I would love to chase all of them. I don't know that between all of us here in the room that we have the bandwidth to do it. So we're really looking.
We're picking priorities right now, though, are we?
Well, ideally, you would pick priorities between these projects and say, these are the ones that we think are most important for you to spend the
So we
time.
want to go through the items that you have and then at that point decide which 1, 2, and 3.
They've been put on the agenda to discuss separately. We did a combined study session. But if there's questions that you have here, or whether you feel after attending the study session that you feel this is going to be not as high on your list of project, then now would be the time to voice that.
And I will say, I mean, the direction could just be bring us back more information and spend a little bit more time to get clarity on this. I did what I could with the time that I had, but
Deadline is 4/17 though, so
right.
that's the question I think council would have is there enough time for them to even give you direction and you to come back for 4/18 and meet this as a deadline?
Yeah, we do have a special meeting coming up next week.
If I may, I know we have 5 projects. I would recommend that we prioritize Cherry Street just because of the deadline.
The Moose Lodge or Cherry Street?
Cherry Street and Moose are up for
So,
CMAQ funding for the.
oh, no, sorry. Yeah.
So just for purposes of this soon, coming up deadline of April 17th. And it looks like out of the 5 projects, Cherry Street is the only one eligible for that, correct?
So Fairview, the idea was, it was proposed by Yvonne, the program director at BCAG, to pursue both the CMAQ funding for design and the ATP for construction.
And item number 10,
Is that Fairview?
Fairview gap closure,
Yes.
so that's for both, correct?
That one would be for both. And we don't have the ATP is not been, there's no NOFA yet. So that direction for that would be to pursue the CMAQ for design and give the county basically the go ahead that we want to pursue ATP in order for them to start those surveys and doing some of the background information that makes it a more competitive grant.
But not to confuse you, but you also said that Cherry Street is eligible for CMAQ.
I think we probably should stick to each item because now we're getting into other, and we had Councilmember Roberts step out. So if you're gonna discuss all of them,
I think it's hard because, I mean, from my understanding, I just want to make sure that we get the deadlines correct. And I think now our priorities need to shift because of the deadline, but now it looks like we might also need to shift our priorities again. Because you're proposing that for one project, we go for one grant for design and another grant for construction. So that's like throwing in another wrench in the way that we're prioritizing all 5 projects.
for this specific project, Dave,
Yeah.
what is your recommendation on the timeline and the cost and whether or not you can meet the deadline? Because if you're moving forward with something that's really you're not gonna be able to do, then maybe you need to make the recommendation.
Yes.
I feel the other ones are more important. This is where we're at on this one, and let's stay on this topic, and then we'll move into
Sure.
the others.
So, yeah, so with that in mind, even though we've got a design here, my recommendation would be to pass on this one for this round of ATP funding. Whether that means we get more data or we find another approach down the road, we can get some feedback from our other projects.
So direction could be to pass on to the next.
Discussion on item number 8.
Yeah, I do have one question. Should we change the recommendations wording to actually include a date that you can actually bring whatever information you find, because it's very vague. I think that we need to know exactly what you find in the short time we have. And I think we need to really make a decision once you present the facts.
So the reason I was bringing all of these, because there's 5 of them, for me to go and bring you a cost and a timeline and a schedule like that takes effort, right? It's expensive. We're in March. And so, and especially with the short timeline on the call for projects for CMAQ. Again, this was a CMAQ funded project. It was something that we proposed back when Safe Routes to School had all the hype for all the ATP, which is, why we pursued it. I actually was a little bit before my time of why we pursued it, but that's my understanding. So it can be done. I just don't know that we can meet the deadline for the CMAQ in order for me to bring that back for you guys to make those decisions. So that's why we pushed to get up this meeting.
And that is, what name should we put right here actually to take leadership on this? I know you're doing it, but we need someone who can actually bring back an individual who can actually bring back all this information in a timely manner, or as soon as you find any results, whether it's just on one project or a couple of projects at a time. I think we need to know there's one that is pretty close to address. I mean, April 17th is just now.
Yeah, so I guess, let me clarify. The CMAQ application is not a heavy lift. It's a call for a project. So we just, pretty much what you have here, we're going to, in front of you, is what gets submitted to BCAG, saying we would like to submit this as a project. We will give them a very rough cost estimate of what we think it'll take to design. Some of those designs have a limit of $160,000. That's what we got before. So, but that's up to BCAG to determine, hey, we can allocate this much money. They'll come back and say, hey, can you get it done for that, right? And so we will, at least get the project on the list. As far as the ATP, the NOFA hasn't even been put out yet, but what the county is looking for is the city saying, yes, we would like to start the process of doing the flyers, whatever it is that the county thinks it's going to take for us to be competitive. So again, that's not really a cost to the city other than a little bit of, again, giving them the project description. In this case, we have the 95% plans. So the reason there's not a lot of costs associated here is the idea is, yes, we want you to engage the county to start doing surveys for this CMAQ project because we think this one's more important than the other projects than Fairview. Once we get into that ATP application, that's when we'll need to come back. Task orders, there could be a $25,000, a $40,000 effort to get the application. But I don't know that until the NOFA is out because we don't know what those requirements are going to take, how much the county's going to do, how much we're going to do. So every year the ATP is different, but the background information that the county is saying that we need is, these surveys and those kind of things. So that, again, that's kind of the purpose. And I will say, we were just trying to get it here to get your direction because we met with the county and they said, well, here's what we recommend. So we wanted to give those recommendations to the council to give us that direction.
Well, I'm thoroughly confused.
This is just to put them on the list.
This is just to put them on the list of projects that you would like us to pursue. And like I said, for this one, my recommendation is that we could go after this at a later date, one of the other cycles for ATP. It just doesn't seem to be as competitive because we don't have the data to back it up.
What if we did it this way, this for clarity? We have 5 to go through. We've already said number 8 would pass on, in your opinion. What if we went through the rest of these and what your opinion is on what should we pass up, what should we strive for? Council could consider that and see if that's the priority that they would consider.
Okay,
I think-
I mean.
How's that sound?
Yeah, just to kind of make it a little more direction. Maybe we could clarify today on this particular item that we'll, as a council, pass on this right now or go to the bottom of the list. Can we?
Oh, I didn't, yeah, what I was trying to do was get his priority on what he thought was most important, and so forth and so on. And then he can go forward with what we consider our best items, or most logical items.
Mr. Mayor, I think your plan can work. I think that if there's some direction or action to be taken on this item, we need to do it while Mr. Roberts is gone. And then we need to bring him back before we start discussion of the next one.
So let's Moose Hall thing first.
Well, he's got 2 conflicts. That is home address and the Moose Lodge, right? But we need to allow him to participate in those that for which there is no conflict.
So if I may, Mayor, I could help provide direction
Please.
without a motion, but pretend it's a motion, but it's one motion. So I propose that the direction to staff be that this connectivity and equal access project be placed at the bottom of the list, number 5. So it looks like we have 5 projects. And I also propose to direct staff to analyze the project. Obviously, it's going to be a bottom priority, but in the meantime, to prepare for next year's funding opportunities, that we look at whether our data that we have is sufficient, or if we need to go out and do new surveys. We also need to make sure that we continue to look at any other grants that are available. And then if we can propose that maybe you come back to us in 5 or 6 months with answers to those questions, so that we can jump ahead of grant deadlines and not be kind of in the pickle that we are tonight.
You talk about just number 8.
Yeah, just number 8.
Yeah, that sounds great to me.
Yeah,
Great.
Public comment, Mr. Mayor.
open to public comment on item number 8. That we put it at a low priority, but still go forward with the necessary.
Exploration.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any comment to the public? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment. Now should we go to item number 11?
We have a motion on the floor and need a second. Sanchez,
Is it
motion.
Yeah, we'll do a motion.
To an action item?
Production.
Your motion on,
I'll second.
Councilmember Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilmember Calderon,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Mayor Parr.
yes. Now we go to item number 8.
9.
We want to get the Moose Hall thing. Right, Jim's out order.
We can move about it.
Then we can bring it back for the others.
You can bring an item out of order if you wish to do so.
Let's bring him back.
Cherry Street.
I mean, let's just go forward with what we want on item number 11.
He doesn't own the spot, so I'm not concerned about that, but he would be making decisions on a negotiation potentially with the Moose Lodge.
Yeah, the other one's just right away. So for the Moose Lodge gap closure, so on Highway 99 between Cherry Street and McDonald's, we identified a section of, well, shoulder at this point, that does not have ADA access. It's really the only point that doesn't provide connectivity from the new apartments to the south, all the way up to the Cherry Street crossing, which provides that pedestrian access to the Heritage Shopping Center and a lot of our commerce. And, you know, even the school, if they didn't go all the way up to East Gridley Road. So with this, it was brought up to Caltrans at our groundbreaking ceremony. They were hoping, we were all hoping it could be included in the project that they have currently out there, but that project is running over budget. So we took the letter that's attached in your packet to BCAG by their request, because they wanted to fight for us to make sure that we got ADA, you know, pedestrian pathways through town. There was some pushback from Caltrans. They were like, well, there's other areas on the west side of 99, but we were able to make the argument that this one is an important one because of that connectivity to some of our residential and commercial buildings or commercial centers. So, so they have unofficially put it on the program for the 2028 SHOP small projects because it's under $1 million. The only request that has come out of that is that the city acquire the right of way from the Moose Lodge in order to make sure that we can build without having to do a right of way take. That's a big thing that they have to deal with in Caltrans, is having that right of way certification. So today the direction is really just the request to go and pursue those right of way negotiations with the Moose Lodge. Some of that is some background data to figure out where exactly that right of way line is and how much of it we're going to need to acquire from them. And then, yeah, once we have that, we can give the thumbs up that we have right of way in order to build the improvements. Those improvements would include, like I said, the sidewalk all in front, a curb ramp, and a crosswalk. We would be eliminating the ADA parking that's currently in front of the highway there. We put a vertical curb so that, you know, people couldn't drive there anymore. It does already propose a danger because people have to back out of those spots onto the highway. So, you know, we're not fans of it. Caltrans aren't fans of that diagonal parking. So with that, we'd negotiate with the Moose Lodge to make sure that they have ADA parking behind their buildings. You know, we may have to do a little pavement and painting for them. Pretty sure our city staff has some capabilities, put some paint on the ground. So again, just to be fully transparent in those negotiations, they do need ADA parking and we're removing it as part of this project. So just something that we would want to consider. So with that, yeah, that's the recommendation, is that we pursue that acquisition.
Question. I know it sounds like you have not had conversations with the Moose, since you are proposing that those ADA parking slots at the front be removed. I think one concern to raise is I don't think patrons to the Moose would be happy if you're suggesting that the ADA parking lots be now placed behind the building instead of the front. So what are your thoughts on that? And what is the law? Because I mean, if they're gonna now be required to incur costs to build new ADA parking lots, is that gonna be part of the negotiation?
That could be part of the negotiation, right?
Are they gonna be fully responsible? So sorry, it's like a two-part question there.
Yeah. I think that what we've heard is from the Moose is that they have interest in that and they don't mind losing the ADA parking there, and they want to put it on the side. There's a back entrance of where they can place the parking, and then there's a back door behind the building that they can access there. So they do want to do away with, it's mentioned in the study session, we want to do away with those ADA in front. And to have.
Yeah, their big concern is making sure that they still have driveway access from the highway. Because they're aware that Caltrans has been, you know, pushing back on trying to eliminate those because, yeah, they want to just make sure that they
And then one clarifying question from something you mentioned earlier, that this might be the only section on the west side of 99 that has no sidewalk,
No.
but I think Stigner Street also does.
No, I was gonna say, well, Caltrans is building one in front of Stukey's.
Oh, they are. Okay.
Yeah, so as part of the, did I get that right? Stukey's? Yeah, as part of the project, they're putting a culvert in right now to connect the new apartments to the Stukey's, and they're building a new sidewalk, so it'll be all the way up to Subway. And then as you continue north, before you get to the crossing, this is the only section that doesn't have the ADA. So if somebody needed a clear path of ADA, they could cross the street here and then continue north on the east side. There, just north of this, there are some spots that are probably not ADA, but they're still paved. And there's still some, some pull-in parking right there. Again, not ideal, but if we expanded that, then Caltrans it would have put us out of the small project area. And so to me, it was more important that we got this to make that connectivity because we're funneling everybody to this crossing anyway, right? And this is one of our most dangerous intersections in all of town. There's no stoplight leading up to it. After you come out of East Burley Road, people are punching it. And it will be modified with a median that comes through there so that people can't turn left onto Cherry anymore. But again, the pedestrian access, we just haven't provided that clear path all the way up to where we're trying to funnel people to cross. And again, hopefully avoiding or deterring them from just running across the street like they do now. They're still going to do it. We can't, unless we're going to go put a fence down the middle of the highway. It's really hard to keep people from doing stupid things, but we do what we can.
Any more comments from the council? Right, if I understand it right, Caltrans is gonna pay for this.
They're going to pay for the improvements. Yes, the sidewalk, curb and gutter.
Well, I would suggest we put this right at the top.
Yes.
All right, I hear a motion on that.
Public comment, Mr. Mayor.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. My fault. I'll open up the public comment on the Moose Lodge sidewalk closure.
Mayor, I am also a board member at the Moose Lodge. And so the driveway that goes directly beside the building, we have talked about putting our ADA parking right there. There's a side door right there that we have members who are in wheelchairs that come through that door also. So we've already talked about what we could do because we don't like our handicaps and our elderly parking out there and backing into the highway. We don't feel it's safe. So we've already discussed it. We are totally on board with this.
Great, appreciate you. Hit that box. Any more discussion from the public? I'll close the public comment part and open a motion.
I'll move that we move forward with the Moose Lodge sidewalk gap closures.
Motion second, roll.
Councilmember Calderon,
Yes.
Mayor Farr,
Yeah,
Vice Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Yes.
very good. You gotta fry on his own. Yeah, I guess we will.
Back to number 9.
Item 9, yes.
What I want to. We'll try to burn them.
Okay.
So this item before you, Cherry Street sidewalk improvement. So I can take credit for this little brainchild coming up rather quickly because of the Moose Lodge that we just talked about. It dawned on me that we don't have any sidewalks that actually get our residents again over to this crosswalk at Cherry Street. We've got Mira Park that's just to the south a little bit there on, see right there on Haskell. And so, we've got these areas in town, our commercial areas, our parks where, it would make sense to have pedestrian access between the two. It's quite, it's a pretty small project. If I had to I haven't done any cost estimates or anything, but my guess is it's probably $1 million. BCAG has shown their support, saying that they think this is a project that could be funded in partnership with BCAG. The city would likely need to come to the table with some piece of that. I don't know what that looks like yet. Again, we're just here looking for directions if it's a good pursuit. CMAQ is likely the avenue for that because it is very much pedestrian driven. So we would submit it as part of that CMAQ call to project. Again, it's really up to BCAG to kind of help us program or to program the funds if they want to put this on the priority list, but if we don't ask it. So again, I haven't done any preliminary engineering other than lay this out and give you a couple of shots on it. It was identified in our local road safety plan as one of our priority projects. Again, because of that connectivity between our commercial areas and our recreation areas. With that, open it up.
I have a question, please. So when you say $1 million, startled me for some sidewalk. Is that for the actual concrete and the work being done, or is that 50% of, and the rest is paperwork and? To put it. I mean, it's crazy that you, I know you're guessing. We're not.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of money to put in a small area of sidewalk.
Well, I mean, everything's expensive, right? We did 450 feet over in Biggs, and that was over $1 million that we spent on 2nd Street. So
Yeah, that's we.
I mean, keep in mind there was storm drain involved, but again, everything adds up. You know, the access, the frontage, you know, if you're contouring a driveway, right? You've now got to take concrete back a little farther. None of the driveways here are ADA, most of them aren't even paved. There's utility relocation if we need, you know, some of the poles.
So some of the funding will be paid for. I mean, this is something that'll be on the city.
Yeah, and it's not.
Everybody has to get their hands in. I get it when it comes to that. So I just didn't want the city to pay $1 million to put in the stretch of sidewalk.
No, and right now we're not looking for an approval on, let's go for $1 million. It's, hey, do we want to pursue this and present it to BCAG, which BCAG will require a little bit of preliminary engineering to say, we think it's going to be this amount. And, you know, this is the time when we just put, you know, here's 10% for engineering and 15% for environmental. And so it's very high level planning effort, but it gets us, you know, in on the list so that there's discussions to be had about it.
So
Any comments? Any comment? My comment is, I look down the list and I see item number 10, which is the Fairview Gap closure. To me, that's more important than Cherry Street because the Fairview Gap closure involves our students at the high school. So I would, my recommendation, put Cherry Street down there close to the bottom.
But isn't the funding sources differently for those two?
Yeah, and honestly, BCAG didn't tell me which funding source. I'm assuming that we would add it to the call for projects with CMAQ with the other ones. And I don't think that's a huge lift by April 17th to get them a preliminary estimate, you know, because we're just going to take some lengths there and, you know, do our engineering estimates based on some square footage and some lengths of curb and gutter and that need repaired.
Maybe they can do both. Can we do both?
Yeah.
And not interfere with one or the other?
Yes.
What do you mean?
Like we can do both Fairview and this one for a call for projects.
Yeah.
Well, there'll be two separate there'll be two separate projects, but I feel very confident we can submit both for very low cost at this point and then kind of see where the.
Well, yeah,
the cards
my point is, I think number 10 is the one that's a higher priority.
Yes, and we're all in agreement of that. The Fairview and East Greeley Road is our highest priority, and it has our best chance for ATP. But again, for this project, I think it's a really easy ask. And I mean, the worst they say is no. And you know, we look at it as a future call for projects.
We'll vote on number 9 and number 10.
Yeah.
Is there any comment from the council, Cherry Street? Open up to the public on Cherry Street sidewalk improvement. Any comment from the public? Seeing none? Close comment to the public and entertain a motion.
I move that we move forward on Erie Street sidewalk improvements.
Second.
Motion second, roll call, please.
Mayor Farr,
Yes.
Councilmember Calderon,
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Sanchez,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Johnson.
Yes.
We go. Now move down to 10.
All right, so number 10 is kind of it's the bigger of the projects and our most competitive, at least based on what we talked with BCAG and the county. It seems to provide the most beneficial impacts to the city. So Fairview, ever since I've been here, has been talked about as needing help. There's been a fatality there. We have some little flashing lights, but the ADA path is not, it's just not there. We have a ramp with no sidewalks connected. We don't have a ramp on the other side. And then we have a fire station, which is, we have to keep access to. So getting a crosswalk on that side. This project has been identified in all of the studies, whether it was a safety action plan from the county, the State Streets for All and the walk audits that they did, that the county came to Gridley and did, and our local road safety plan. The school brings it up. I think every meeting that we meet with the school, we talk about Fairview, East Gridley, how the kids won't even use the crosswalk. They'll just cross on the other side. So what during our last site visit and walk, it was identified that we should really expand the scope of the project from not just Fairview and this intersection, but providing pedestrian access all the way down to the fairgrounds because of how much traffic we get. Even if it's just during that one weekend, there's just a lot of foot traffic out there. So that's what you're seeing in this picture. They really want us to consider how we can do a controlled intersection at Fairview and East Gridley Road. You cannot get transportation people to not bring up a roundabout. So that's why you see this little circle there. They would like us to do an alternative analysis, whether it's a mini roundabout, stop signs, flashing beacons, I think is kind of a must to have something that's brighter out there when pedestrians do access. Along with that, we'll likely need a traffic study to talk with Caltrans. They're going to have input because we can't cause any backups onto the highway. Maybe we put a signalized intersection here. Some of the things that we talked about in the study session that I didn't show on the plan was maybe there's ways to do bulb outs or traffic calming. Again, these are all things that we would want to look at during kind of the feasibility alternatives analysis. And then as we move up Fairview, we would look at really more of the gap closures and the ADA ramps. So I will say one of the things that the county asked us to look at was potentially narrowing Fairview or limiting parking on maybe the west side so that we could figure out a way to provide wider sidewalks to make it more pedestrian friendly. So we'd like to look at some of those options too. And then continue the sidewalk all the way up to what is that? Spruce? What's Northside Hazel? Spruce, yeah, East Spruce there, with where there's no sidewalk currently. So this one, the recommendation here is that we put it in for the design in for a call for projects for the CMAQ with BCAG, and with that they want to see us go after the ATP funding for it. So when they fund with CMAQ, they would like to see us get grants to actually construct it. So the idea here is that while we were designing with CMAQ funds, we would pursue those ATP funding for construction, either this cycle if we're ready or the next cycle. So again, it's putting it on the list. BCAG would really like to see us go after it this cycle. The county is a little more hesitant, but willing to hunker down and get the work done. But again, in order to be competitive, we need to get out there and do surveys. They have a list of things that they would like to start doing. So really tonight, it's move forward with CMAQ for design and then give the county the go-ahead that yes, we would like to pursue ATP so that they can kind of start doing their legwork, even though the ATP isn't out for a NOFA yet, a notice of funding, available funding yet. So, yeah, with that, questions?
Discussion on the recommendation. Feel free. So, seeing none, I'll open it up to the public. On Fairview gap closure, item number 10. We now will close public comment and look for a motion.
So the motion is to direct city staff to further explore Fairview gap closure and East Curly Road pedestrian improvements. Pursuit of active ATP funding.
I'll second. Roll call.
Councilmember Calderon,
Yes.
Mayor Park,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Yes.
We've already covered number 11, we'll now move to item number 12, Wilson School.
Okay, so a quick recap on this project. We're looking at the crossings, well, really the Magnolia Street in front of Wilson School. All of our studies have shown that this is a high area of safety concern, specifically during, pickup and drop off. So one of the, and it's really too small of a project to get any kind of, real funding and be competitive. So that's why I say local city funds if we want to pursue some safety actions. We've seen some temporary ones out there. The county supplied those. So the recommendation that kind of came out of it was, is there a way for us to just block off Lincoln Street's access to Magnolia? Talked about maybe doing a no left-hand turn out of there. But maybe it's just easier to block it off and direct people back to Haskell or come back around to the other one starts with Jackson. But then that way that just limits the congestion at the crosswalks where everybody's trying to, all the kids are trying to get across. One of the options, the quick temporary option, we've got some K-rails sitting out in the industrial park, big concrete blocks, and we just block it off. Give it a shot. They'd be a temporary fix or temporary, trial run, if you will. The permanent solution would be to actually build vertical curb sidewalks across there, put in a road barricade so that cars knew that they couldn't drive there. And then that would provide that safe crossing. Now the kids are only having to cross Magnolia. They're not having to negotiate crossing Lincoln as well while people are trying to make left hand and, all the turning radiuses. The one other red line that you see there is a little alleyway that goes by the park, between the park and that one house. We were told that during the audits that people always use that as a shortcut to try and, come out, make left-hand turns. So we'd like to block that one off too. Again, put them back to Haskell, roads that are meant to have vehicular, movements on them. The alleyways really are not designed for turning in and out of. So again, finding some way to barricade that, eventually building vertical curbs, to deter people from driving through the alleyway there. So again, because this isn't really eligible for any of the grant fundings, there's not a real urgency to do anything here, but because we're doing the study session, we figured we'd give you guys the opportunity to give us some direction if you want to pursue any safety measures in Wilson. And we have been in conversation with the schools. They agree that this, this is an area of concern. I don't think anybody at the school would have any objections to us blocking off.
Any comment from the council?
It's a good project.
No comments, council, move to public comment. Wilson School safety improvements. Seeing none, close public comment.
I'll motion that we put this bottom two, the priorities, but I still propose that we direct city staff to look at what other fundings there are, if there's any surveys that need to be conducted, and if our current data suffices, or if we need to do more in collaboration with the school district.
Yeah, we can put together a little exhibit with a cost estimate so that we have some idea of what we're looking at.
And then just to end that, all of these 5 projects are a priority for us, but that's what the city council has to decide is what trumps others. But again, just want to say that everything here tonight is very important to us in the community safety. That is my message.
I'll second.
You do have a kind of feel what we consider our high priority.
Yes, sir. Yes.
That's important.
I've been seeing Lisa taking the notes over there, so we'll reconvene and make sure that we're getting our projects on the list.
Motion second.
Councilmember Calderon,
Yes.
Mayor Park,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts.
Yes.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Yes.
We'll now move to council committee reports.
Hey, I'm not going to my computers right
At a chamber meeting, talked about Red Suspenders Day a little bit, getting everything ready for that. And we've got a meeting this week today for Red Suspenders Day.
I don't have anything.
I attended the mosquito abatement meeting. And we're gearing up for mosquitoes are coming, so nothing was discussed where we couldn't handle the mosquitoes this year, so we're gonna go after it. So all the preparations, everything has been put together for that. I also attended the second control, it's a flood control agency. One of the things that was on our consent agenda, which was pulled, and we approved a 30-day extension for the award of the Oroville Wildlife Thermal Recreation Improvement Project construction contract. We needed to approve a 30-day extension on that bid for approval because things needed to line up. That was one of the big things, but that didn't sign. And then also I attended the LAFCO, which during that meeting, one of the main things that Controller Gridley was the MSR, the review and the update of the MSR. And it was I'm glad that Lisa showed up and Christopher showed up also. So in this review, there was some board members that had input to the Shannon who puts together the MSRs and stuff or updates them and add stuff to them. I don't know how to explain it, but there was a lot of input by a couple of members. Myself, a little bit of input on the way the wording should be when it's completed. And there were some other issues on the members' thoughts. And I think even went down as far as some of the typos and stuff. So I think between myself, Elisa, and Christopher, I think we got our point across. What we would like to have added to that before it's completed. So other than that, there was really nothing else that concerned Gridley. So that's all I have to report. And I want to thank you guys for being there because, you know, I only know so much, but when you go over there and you have staff that goes with you, and it's very helpful in getting your point across. Thank you.
Safety number.
Yes, for sure.
I have no report, but just a question for when we get to administrator and public or department head updates. I'm getting an update as to the current status of the Highway 99 sidewalk construction. I noticed that they tried to pull out the sidewalk ramps on the corners. So I don't know if you can touch on that in your report, please, and kind of why that is, if the BCAG is studying that, kind of an overall update. Thank you. That's all for me.
The administrator.
Yes, I think Council Vice Mayor Bruce highlighted LAFCO. That was a very thorough review of our MSR. We're going back and just refining some areas in there that there were questions from the board. I did want to commend our Vice Mayor and staff representing Gridley in that meeting. And also we did hear some positive comments come out of there on our partnership and collaboration with the water districts and also LAFCO. And I think that we have been improving on meeting regularly and discussing important aspects of Gridley as we grow. So that was a really good meeting. Happy to attend that one. We did also want to mention, I want to mention also the website went live on the 10th. A lot of work that was put into that was through our Deputy City Clerk Carmen, city staff, Samantha Stoppelmore out of PD, and then also Patricia Taverner. They really headed that project, and if you go online, you can see the new website. We're going to be updating it with some pictures and some more information and building on that new website. So that's up and running. Also attended a meeting with CDBG, just a funding source for potential funding on the Laurel Street extension. We're working with Housing Tools and working our way with staff has been heavily involved in that. Also met with Fire Battalion Chief and we discussed the fire contract. And then that will be coming to you shortly in a presentation. And then also I met with PG&E with our staff as well. It's a PG&E partnership. Collaboratively, we meet and we discuss issues between both utilities and we specifically discuss the transition of Gridley electrical customers coming out of PG&E territories into Gridley territory and any tariffs and issues with that. So we're working our way on working through that. They have been very helpful in providing a contact person. So when we have to pick up the phone and call, there is someone specifically. So Brenda from PG&E has been spectacular as coordinating these between the city and PG&E. And then also we're getting very close to, we did receive some applications for open positions and been meeting and with HR manager and reviewing those applications for all departments for open positions that are coming in. So we hope to have some future items before you for filling in those vacancies. So.
Right to hear from the department head, please.
Evening, Mayor and Council. The ladder truck has been delivered to Sacramento. They did another walkthrough on it. Everything looks great. They are currently installing radios and the computer, and then it should be delivered to Gridley. We're expecting it to be about 2 weeks out. Many of the Station 74 personnel spent last week engaged in intense water rescue training as part of the water rescue team. And then next week, myself and one of the Station 74 captains will be traveling to Riverside to attend our incident management team conference. The knowledge training received by individuals on these statewide incident management teams will be a benefit to the city if there's ever a large incident here. This is one of the benefits of having employees with diverse experience and knowledge. Be happy to answer any questions.
Question for the chief. Yeah, I do. Did they drive it back here or did they?
They drove it back here, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, look.
Glad to get out of that snow.
Yeah.
yeah, it keeps us from having to drive in West End. Yeah. Any other questions?
See ya.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I don't have a lot to update, but one just police department's preparing for the upcoming Red Suspenders Parade up in May, and also our motor officer is finally up and going after a long period of time without him. And he's primarily focusing on the construction zone and the school zones in Gridley and Biggs. He's roughly working about on the bike about 10 to 15 hours a week. As staffing improves, that time will improve, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
I have a clarifying question. So when you say that the time would improve, you mean he would be spending more time out in the field? On staffing?
Focused on the traffic enforcement on the bike when staffing improves, yes.
Ideally, what would be your goal, like 20, 25 hours a week?
Ideally, I'd like it 40 hours a week, but just depends on staffing and.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Not a whole lot for planning, but I did have some questions brought to me, so I thought I'd address them here. With the project on the corner of 99 and West Liberty, it did go back to the planning commission, was reapproved, and there was some questioning about why it had to go back there. There was an expiration date put on their site development plan. That section of the code doesn't require an expiration date, nothing in the code says that they should expire, but it was conditioned to expire. I don't know why it was conditioned that way. Maybe there were some concerns about it or felt that it should be revisited every so often. And I'm not sure why it took the developer quite so long to get it to where it's at now. They have submitted plans for that location and they're in I think they're with the county, right, Dave? You know, they've gotten anything back?
I haven't.
Okay, but they haven't got to a point where they can submit for a grading plan or an encroachment permit, so it wasn't far enough to trigger the point where they didn't need to get it reinstated. So that's why we took it back to commission. Commission approved it as they did previously. So yeah, other than that, there's no big significant thing going on, but I'm happy to answer some questions.
Mayor, Council. Real quick before I get to your questions there. Seems like I keep talking about Vera Park and the ball fields, but the snack bar air conditioner to get installed. And I believe Martine got an email with a thank you for that, and it was working well. So that got taken care of. The around the farm field, there were some trees kind of in the backstop, down the baselines. Got some of that taken care of this week. Or last week, sorry. Today we did put the sunshades up over I call them the grandstands for the Majors Field. So that got taken care of today. And in case anyone gets a phone call, we did stop mowing the majority of Vera Park, other than the outfields for the balls right now for the Lions Club for their annual Easter egg hunt. So if people say the grass is too tall or anything, we hope it grows some more because it's actually kind of short right now. So some more warm days, it'll probably start getting there. And to get to your question, Councilmember Sanchez, as far as maybe Dave can help me on this, on the west side, that was part of Caltrans project to redo those, get them all into compliance. I know a few of them seem like not too many years ago they got taken care of when we had the fancy brick sidewalks put in. That was all part of the plan and the project through Caltrans to get those on the west side of all those returns done, get them up to proper standards. that help?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
All right.
That's
Any other questions?
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Good evening, just a quick update on the audits. We did approve, the council did approve the financials at the last meeting, so. The only one left from our auditors is the single audit, which audits the federal dollars used in a single year, which the city's is done with that. We're just waiting for the draft from the auditor, so they're working on that. I did get an email shortly before about 4:50 of the other audit with the California Tax Division that it was finally complete. The findings weren't major, nothing of concern. I'll put that on the next agenda for you guys to review, but it's pretty, there wasn't anything major, no major findings, so that's done. We did submit 2 grants recently. One's at Aaron Rodgers Foundation to kind of repave, put more gravel over on the baseball fields. I believe Jerry talked on it a little bit at the last meeting, and then we did submit, I believe last Friday, an IT grant to improve our security for our network. So hopefully, fingers crossed on that one. I recently read an article on the IT. It was another small city over it was far away from us, like Chicago area, that they actually got hacked, and it's the size of Orville maybe. And so we're hoping to get that IT because at any time, I know we're a small city, but it could still happen. So hopefully we get that IT grant. So and that's pretty much it. So happy to answer any questions if you have any. Thank you.
Seeing that, thank you, Martin.
Evening, Mayor, City Council. At this time, the electric department doesn't have anything new to report unless you have any questions for me.
Could ask you a question.
Alright.
When do we plan to commence street trimming in Gridley? Is that usually summer or early spring?
Usually we start with the schools in August, early August, just to try to get that knocked out before they start at the end of the month. And once the schools are all done, then we proceed with doing the rest of the city, which will follow through September, usually the end of September, October, and then we'll start on Biggs following that. We'll also go to Biggs too before school. So we just take care of schools in both towns because those seem to be the high traffic areas, most difficult to do. But yeah, August to October is pretty much the timeline for that.
Thank you.
Question?
Alright. You guys probably heard enough of me. I'll be back next week.
Yeah, thanks, meetings. Seeing nothing else, no more discussion, we will now go into closed session.